We are getting right into today's video with the install of this COBB carbon fiber intake. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. It's time to finally do some power mods on the STI, and what better way to do it with probably one of the most favorite mods amongst car guys, an intake. And not just any intake, this is COBB's SF carbon fiber intake. This is the red line. Red line kind of stands for their carbon fiber series of parts. They make some other engine bay dress up for the STI, but their biggest part in this line is their intake. We have the intake here, all the hardware for it, and then we also have the most important part, which is the access port, but I will get into that a little bit later. Hopping right into it, we're gonna get started on removing the stock intake. We're gonna start with this snorkel and then move on to the actual air box and the MAF sensor, and basically everything from here over is getting replaced with this super nice carbon fiber unit. And the snorkel just pops out like that. Then we have two hose clamps, one here, one here. Now I'm going to get this bracket, which we will not be reusing again. Lastly, there's a 10 mil down here on the frame rail. And then pull these out of the way. Box. And then your inlet. So your stock intake consists of three parts. You have the actual box itself with the filter. You have the snorkel, which slides in like that. And then you have the actual inlet hose that goes to the actual turbo inlet that goes under the manifold. So I have all the parts laid out for the intake. We have all the hardware. We have the actual velocity stack right here. It's really cool. They give you like this pre-cut set of gaskets. I kind of show you how those go on in just a little bit. And then you have a couple of plates. They're like this CNC machined. I believe they're aluminum. Everything that COBB makes is really good quality. I'm pretty sure every single one of you that has been in the Subaru world has heard of COBB before. They've been around for a long time, and they're not just in the Subaru world. They're in the Volkswagen, the Porsche, and the Ford community as well. But everything they make is super cool. So starting out, we have to get the various gaskets, different spots. There's one big ring that goes on the inside of the intake right here. You have one that goes on this right here, which I don't think we'll use because we're not going to be installing this block off plate. Then you have a couple of various gaskets that go on your mounting bracket so they don't scratch up the carbon fiber, which is really cool. Like I said, the first one is the one that goes around the inside of this ring. So you do have to line up the holes as best as you can. Next one for us is the gasket that goes on this little bracket here. And then the last one is also on this larger bracket. It's right there, like that. So now our next step is to do a little bit of pre-assembly before we install the intake. So I'm gonna go through, get that done, and then explain it to you guys when I'm finished. Okay, so I've got pretty much everything ready to go into the car. So what happens is you have your velocity stack with your filter that is on the end of it inside here. You have that big circular CNC plate that holds that into the actual intake body itself. And then you have your MAF sensor along with the actual intake silicone coupler that is basically the same thing as this stock piece. So there's a little bit of engine bay prep that needs to be done before the intake actually goes in, because you basically install the intake fully assembled, and there's a couple of brackets that need to be installed, and then we will get it in, but it should be pretty quick. First things first, we're going to loosen up the radiator mounts. So the next part is a little bit tricky, and I'm 1000% gonna drop the bolts into the engine bay, which is gonna suck. but I don't even know what they're called. They're basically nipples for the grommets that we installed into the intake box, basically, and it's what is going to hold the intake in place. And they go into these holes in the top of the front core support. What I've gone ahead and done is just taped it to the end of this Allen key. Hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier to get in there. Now we take this piece on there like that. There we go. We have to remove a bolt back here, and then we have to reinstall our original intake box bolt right here so that we can mount this bracket for the new intake. So we have it loosely in place down there, but now it's time to actually get the intake installed. So there's a grommet on the bottom of the intake that sits in that rubber bushing. This one right here. So we're gonna have to sneak the intake in through the top and then kind of tilt it in and get it onto the turbo inlet. Just like that, it's in. Other than that, the last step is to replug our MAF sensor in like that. And just like that, it's finished and it looks so sweet. Now, there is still one crucial element left in this puzzle, and that is this right here. If you are unfamiliar with what a COBB access port is, it's a small little box that sits in the car, and it allows you to load custom maps onto the car as well as view specific engine parameters such as coolant temp, oil pressure, stuff like that that are already built into the engine from the factory. It's a super useful tool. They're very popular in the Subaru community, and it is essential when installing parts such as intake that interfere with, or not interfere, but mess with how the air flows through the motor. So you want to make sure you have the right calibration to go along with the car. Now, for just an intake, COBB has their off-the-shelf maps, which is a tune designed for this specific part. So this would be the stage one SF Redline intake tune that they provide. It won't be this way for forever, but for right now, while we just have the intake, running the OTS map is super safe. Here we go with the access port. So first up, we need to install the access port. So I'm gonna click the first button right here, install. Gonna think for a second. So verify that it's in the on position, 2021 STI. Yep. Now, it's going to start off with all the maps that are available on the access port. So here at the top, it's Next Gen Stage 2 1050. That's for their Next Gen Flex Fuel Stage 2 package. We are going to scroll down to Stage 1 plus Big SF. They have maps specifically for Arizona, California, Nevada. Our gas here is a little bit different. It's actually the worst gas on the planet. Eventually when we go Flex Fuel, that'll change everything. But for right now, we are going to do the Stage 1 plus Big SF, ACN 91 octane. And we are going to load that. One thing that is super important when you reflash the car, let it idle for a few minutes, probably 5 or 10 minutes, so that the car can relearn again, and then do the same when you go out to drive. make sure to just drive it gently, just regular cruising, so that the car can relearn all the parameters before you start to beat on it. So I'm going to let it relearn, and then in the morning we will go for a drive. So we have the map loaded up and we are ready to go. Honestly, I'm not expecting for there to be like a huge speed difference. Or so I'm expecting it's going to be a lot cleaner and a lot more responsive and snappy than the factory tune. So I guess we will see. Definitely a lot more responsive than the factory tune, which is what I expected. I think you only gain about maybe 10 to 12 more horsepower, but the power band is a lot more responsive and you can actually rev it out, whereas in the stock configuration it kind of fell off a little bit up top. I don't know if the camera inside's gonna pick it up, but hopefully the mic that I have mounted in the engine bay will pick it up. But it sounds pretty good. It definitely sounds good. It's not as loud as the intake on the 05 STI, but it definitely sounds good. Sounds good. The other cool thing that you can do with the access port is launch control. So you set it. So just another cool feature you can do. Sometimes these simple mods, these simple bolt-on mods are like the most fun just because they're super easy. You can do them at a weekend. You get immediate new results. So do they make the car that fast? No, they don't, but they are a lot of fun. This car is starting to turn out super sweet. I know there's just some basic mods on this thing, but it's kind of ultimately what I wanted to do at the end of the day. I wanted to keep it super simple, just fun, enjoy it for a little while, and just have a nice, solid daily driver to, keep in the channel so that when we upgrade cars, then we have something to drive. Looks like it's about to rain here, like I said. I mean, you just cannot get over that Subi rumble. It's still the best sounding 4-cylinder in my mind.